Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 74 of the Dear Herbalist podcast titled Herbal Formulation, Cellular Targets. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for listening in. I certainly appreciate that. You are always welcome to the family. And if you are returning, thank you so much for your continued support. Welcome back. Hopefully this podcast has been a blessing to you and you've learned a lot from it. Stay tuned. I have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of more information to get to you. So, cellular targets. Now, why did I decide to choose this? I picked cellular targets as a topic because a lot of people often ask, how do I know if my herbal remedy or the human body will respond to what I'm offering it? How do I know how the herbs are going to interact with the body system to ensure, at least as best as possible, that an action or a reaction is going to occur to best benefit my client, myself, my family? And I believe that cellular targets, understanding them, is a piece to that huge protocol puzzle. So I'm going to talk about cellular targets today, what they are, how they work, give you some examples of that, why they benefit herbalists, and why we should understand them as herbalists. That is all coming up, so stay tuned. But first, because I'm an herbalist educator, I believe in definitions and defining things so that we have an understanding of what we're talking about here. So let's first define what cellular targets are. Cellular targets are specific molecules or structures within cells that drugs or therapeutic agents interact with to produce a desired effect or response in your body. They are like specific parts of a cell that drugs or other substances aim to interact with. So you can think of them like locks and the drugs or substances as keys. So when the right key, which is your drug or your phytochemical, that type of thing, fits into the right lock, which is your cellular target, it can cause changes in how the cell actually works. So for herbalists, understanding this is very important because when we are formulating remedies, it allows us to have a more precise and effective protocol. So understanding cellular targets also allows us to formulate remedies that can effectively address the root causes of the dis-ease or the disorder and promote overall health by working with the body's natural processes at the cellular level. Because again, everything occurs at the cellular level. So we as herbalists need to have more of an understanding of what's going on with the body at the cellular level so that we can better create more effective remedies. So let's talk about some of the common types of cellular targets. Those are your proteins, enzymes, receptors, these type of things. But let's dive in a little bit deeper. So some key cellular targets include enzymes. These are proteins that help chemical reactions happen in the cell. If you're using phytochemicals, these can speed up or slow down these reactions by interacting with the enzymes in the body. Another cellular target is a receptor. These are like the antennas on the cell that actually receives the signals. So when a phytochemical interacts or attaches to a receptor, it can either send a message or block messages from being received. Ion channels, and an example of that can be calcium channels for cardiovascular effects. These are like gates that control what goes in and out of the cell. So your phytochemicals can either open or close these gates and change how your cell functions. And then another cellular target is the transcription factors. All right, so that's your NF-KB for inflammation and immune responses. So transcription factors are like the on and off switches for your genes. They control which genes are actually active and which proteins the cells make. Another one are your structural proteins, and these are the cell's building blocks and support system. They give the cells their shape and helps them to move. And then finally, another one is transporters. These are like cellular delivery trucks that move substances around. Phytochemicals can affect how these transporters work depending on the circumstances. So when you have either scientists that may want to create drugs or herbalists that may want to create herbal remedies, When they develop medicines or herbal remedies, they often try to find substances that will interact with specific cellular targets to produce desired effects, like either reducing pain or fighting infection. So knowledge of this is very important. And to kind of build upon that, it is important for herbalists to understand this for several reasons. Number one, we want to understand as herbalists how our herbs and the phytochemicals within them interact with the body at a molecular level. We also want to be able to formulate more targeted and effective remedies. Another reason why it's important for herbalists to understand cellular targets is because when we're combining herbs, we want to focus on herbs that may work on complementary targets. So, for example, combining turmeric, which targets the inflammatory pathways, with ginger, which modulates digestive enzymes, may provide complementary anti-inflammatory and digestive benefits to yourself, your family, or your clients. Another reason why it's important for herbalists to understand cellular targets is because it will allow us to be able to predict potential synergies or interactions between herbs. So we can predict how herbs might work together by looking at which parts of the body each herb actually affects, helping them to create a more effective combination. The other reason why it's beneficial is because it'll help explain the mechanisms behind the herb's therapeutic effects. It's like a whole nother layer that most people don't tend to look at. And so this knowledge can complement not only traditional wisdom, but help create more effective targeted formulas. Now, keep in mind that having this knowledge of cellular pathways, like I said before, it's a piece of the puzzle, just one piece. You have to look at the holistic aspect, the synergistic nature of herbs, the individual constitutions and needs of that particular person. All of these things still come into play. So it's not like you just identify, what particular enzymes or receptors need to be addressed or pathways where the dis-ease is, manifesting and things that may be going on with that. But you want to make sure that you have all the pieces of the puzzle together and sit back and look at it from that vantage point rather than just having one piece and making judgments based on that. So again, I'm kind of helping you with this formulation series build up those pieces. These are the pieces that you need to look at. So hopefully by now you're writing this down, because tonight's not necessarily a long podcast. I really just wanted to get this information out there to people that maybe wanted to hear about it, learn about it. I'm a nerd, so I just love learning. I love grasping new concepts and information. I learned about this, so I'm excited to share it with you all. And like I said, I have way more information as well. So again, one piece of the puzzle here. Now let's look at cellular targets in relation to dis-ease. The reality is that many diseases involve dysfunction of specific cellular targets. So this is the reason why you want to look at them. So for example, with cancer, overactive growth factor receptors or mutated genes, something has gone wrong there. In diabetes, you look at the insulin receptors or the glucose transporters. With hypertension, you want to look at the angiotensin converting enzyme or calcium channels. So for inflammation, you want to look at the issues that might be circled around your cyclooxygenase enzymes or your cytokine receptors. Now, if you're having a multi-target approach, herbal medicines often affect multiple cellular targets simultaneously. So you want to keep that in mind. Obviously, this can lead to more holistic effects and potentially fewer side effects when compared to single target pharmaceutical medicines. But this multi-target approach is definitely a key advantage of herbal medicine because, again, it can affect multiple cellular targets at the same time. So we talked a little bit about what they are, why it's important for herbalists to study them, how this works in relation to dis-ease or disorder. Let's talk a little bit about how does all this happen, right? So therapeutic agents or herbs interact with cellular targets to produce desired effects through several mechanisms. Number one, binding to receptors. So the agent binds to the specific receptors on or inside your cells, triggering signaling cascades that leads to cellular responses. Number 2, enzyme inhibition or activation. So the agent can either inhibit or activate enzymes involved in key cellular processes. Number 4, ion channel modulation. So some agents affect the opening or closing of ion channels, altering ion concentrations and signaling. Number 5, gene expression regulation. Certain agents can influence gene transcription and protein synthesis. Another one is antioxidant activity. So some herbs contain compounds that neutralize harmful free radicals. And then the final one is membrane interactions. So some agents can alter cell membrane properties, affecting how the cell functions. So let me give you a more practical example. Let's take curcumin, which is a compound found in turmeric, as an example. So curcumin interacts with multiple cellular targets to produce an anti-inflammatory effect. What it does is that it binds to and inhibits the enzyme COX-2, which is the cyclooxygenase 2, which is responsible for producing inflammatory prostaglandins. By inhibiting this, the COX-2, curcumin reduces inflammation. So this is how this happens when you're talking about using turmeric to address inflammation. What it does is that it inhibits the COX-2, and this is how it reduces your inflammation. All right. Now, curcumin also inhibits the activation of the NF-κB, which is a transcription factor that regulates genes involved in inflammation. So by preventing NF-κB activation, curcumin downregulates the expression of pro-inflammatory cytokines. All right. And I know this may sound like, oh my God, what the heck is all that? Basically what it's doing, it's holding back your enzymes, or it's holding back activation of certain enzymes or transcriptions and preventing them from inducing an inflammatory response. Okay. It acts as an antioxidant, which neutralizes free radicals that can contribute to cellular damage and inflammation. Another thing that curcumin does is it modulates various signaling pathways, including the MAPK and the AKT pathway, which are involved in the inflammatory responses. Now, one thing to know and understand that through these multiple interactions with cellular targets, curcumin produces its overall anti-inflammatory effect. And this example that I gave you illustrates how a single compound can interact with various cellular targets to achieve a therapeutic outcome. So the example that I gave you illustrates how a single compound, curcumin, can interact with various cellular targets to achieve a therapeutic outcome. So when you're sitting down and you're trying to formulate for a particular issue, you always want to have on there somewhere in your laboratory manual a therapeutic outcome. What is the outcome before really you want to think about what the issue is first, right? What do I want the therapeutic outcome to be? What enzymes are involved in this process? What transcription is involved in this process? What signaling pathways are involved in this process? All the cellular targets. What are these processes that are involved in my therapeutic outcome? How can I achieve this? By understanding the cellular targets, this is how you know that this particular chemical can do these things. So when you're looking at formulation, you want to look at the phytochemicals that you're looking at, right? What can this chemical realistically do? And that'll help you to better understand, can it have an effect or an impact on my cellular targets to achieve the therapeutic outcome? So if somebody has arthritis and you want to help them relieve that, these type of things, you want to look at the cellular targets. This is why this is important. And it may seem, a little bit crazy, the words may sound like, what in the world? But these are real live things that you want to make sure that you know. You want to know these enzymes, especially if you're a formulating herbalist or if you're a clinical herbalist. You definitely want to know the biochemical pathways. You want to know the cellular targets. All of these things are very important in herbal formulation. I would even say if you're a product making herbalist, you want to understand these things, because if you're creating formulations that are targeting specific issues, then you want to make sure that you've at least taken in consideration those cellular targets that are involved in either the dis-ease or the imbalance of that particular issue, or they're involved in that specific outcome, that therapeutic outcome that you're trying to achieve. So think about it that way. So it does require a little bit of research on your part. You need to understand on the molecular level, what is the body doing? What are the imbalances? And then you also need to understand your cellular targets when it comes to formulation and phytochemistry and creating herbal medicines. And like it said before, the beauty of herbal medicine is that you can have one particular chemical, okay, and it can have multiple interactions with cellular targets. That's the beauty of it. I think the Most High knew it's like, nah, again, it ain't a one size fits all, but even just that one chemical can be so powerful to do multiple things. That way, if my people are ever stuck out here in the wilderness and all they had was curcumin, all they had was turmeric, then it could address a variety of different issues in the body. That is the beauty and the intelligence of the design of not only plants, but also the human body. So as herbalists, I charge you to please get excited about this. This information is interesting. Please don't think it's too scientific, it's boring, it's whatever. It is interesting. And once you grasp a hold of it and the knowledge of it, that will set your business it will soar. You will be able to have more targeted protocols for your clients. You'll be able to have measures to be able to determine, is this working? Do I need to increase this particular chemical or reduce this chemical? How is the body reacting and responding? Let's get some results out here, people. Let's get some results out here, people. So as we wrap up this episode on cellular targets in herbal formulation, remember that this knowledge is a powerful tool in your herbalist toolkit. Understanding how herbs interact with specific cellular components allows us as herbalists to create more targeted and effective remedies. Now, it's crucial to balance this scientific approach with the holistic wisdom of traditional herbalism. I'm not asking you to put that aside. That has to be a part of the equation. But the multi-target approach of herbal medicine, where a single herb can affect multiple cellular targets, is one of herbal medicine's greatest strengths. This complexity contributes to the holistic effects of herbs and often results in fewer side effects compared to more single-target pharmaceutical drugs, which also have tons of side effects, by the way. Now, as you apply this knowledge that I've given to you tonight in your business, in your life, with your family, remember that each person is unique. While cellular targets provide valuable insights, always consider the individual needs of your clients, yourself, as well as the synergistic nature of herbs. Again, cellular targets is one piece of a greater puzzle. And by combining modern scientific understanding with traditional herbal wisdom, we can create formulations that truly work with the body's natural processes to promote health and healing. This is how you work with the body's natural processes. You understand what those natural processes are. And if you don't understand what those natural processes are as an herbalist, what are you doing? This is how you recommend certain remedies that are antagonistic to the body, because it's like, hey, hello, I'm not trying to do that. I see the illness too. I've already clocked it before you saw it. So I'm trying to do this. What are you doing? You're trying to bind up my ability to heal myself. I know what to do. So I just need a little boost right here. That's all I need from you. I don't need you coming in with the herbs to overthrow what I'm trying to do. Right? We have to work with the body's natural processes. So I am someone that you are going to hear talk about how the body works, because to understand the human body, it is a beautiful design. It is an intelligent design created by the Most High, our Creator, to allow us to function in this realm Understanding that we may have trials, we may have tribulations, we may have, things that we deal with. We may have poisonous food, we may have dangerous chemicals put in everywhere. And understanding the beauty of our body is able to handle it as long as we take care of our bodies and we do things to work with our bodies and not against it, wearing it down and wearing it out. So, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I hope you wrote some notes. Let's build a community. Let's talk. What do you know about cellular targets? Have you used them? Have you thought about them? I hope that this podcast has definitely helped you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media sites. And until next time, family, I'm out.